Welcome back to America Tonight with me, Kate Delaney, coast to coast and all those great nooks and crannies in between. We've talked about this a lot. We've talked about, of course, oil and gas fracking, and then what happens in between, and what about the dirty water and cleaning the dirty water. There have been lots of documentaries and things done on it, and there's concerns. And, you know, I've talked about, I had family members that were actually in the fracking business, and I learned a lot about the industry. So it's a huge expense to the oil and gas industry when you're talking about getting rid of the dirty water that flows, that comes back out of the ground during that fracking process. Paul Schlossberg joins us now from Water Rescue Services. Paul, thanks for coming on America Tonight.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Well, I would assume you are a very busy person because there is a lot of fracking going on, and this is something whose time has come because there was a lot of problems in cleaning up some of these sites and actually, you know, figuring out what to do with that dirty water. So explain to us the technology that you do at Water Rescue Services.
Our technology is based on a 100-year-old or 100-plus-year-old theory called electrocoagulation. We just fortunately were able to hit the exact magic formula that others could not do, and it has allowed us not only to achieve a position in the industry to clean up all this water that was taken for granted or slung around in various places, but it allowed the U.S. Patent Office to issue us 2 patents. So we were able to tweak it, and what we are able to do is pull up to the site, and we will return to the operator somewhere between as little as 95% and as much as 97% of every barrel of water they provide us for treatment.
Wow. The process and how you work on that process, has it gotten more refined? Or as you say, this is a process, would you say, over 100 years old? I would imagine there's been some changes along the way. What are some of the little nuances?
Well, it's constant tweaking and constant understanding. We were a little naive. We felt like the industry would jump all over this the minute they heard it was ready for prime time.
Right.
But interesting, as sophisticated and intelligent as this industry is and will continue to be, they've been a little slower to react because they have been using the same methodology for so many years. Water was taken for granted, fresh water. It was cheap, it was plentiful, and it was just easy to get it. Now it's not. But as we have been approached and as we have been engaged by various well-known companies in various geographic regions of the country, we've also learned that every one of these regions and sectors, no surprise, has very different nuances to their water. So not only are we continually tweaking the process, but you're continually tweaking the treatment, the methodology and the treatment on a day-to-day basis because of the water variances in each geographic region.
Yeah. You talked about the couple of patents. Boy, that's a wild process. Did it take a long time to go through the whole patent thing?
Yes, about a year.
Wow.
And honestly, we were fortunate. Apparently, the U.S. Patent Office has started a new program. Heretofore, it would take 3 to 5 years. They now have a program where you can pay some extra money and get expedited attention. And we were fortunate enough to fall into that window, and we got immediate attention. It probably didn't hurt that we were submitting something that was of high visibility and very hot nature topic. But
sure, that
just
people were interested.
To give you a flavor, if I could offer this up, the average site, medium-sized site, will use somewhere as little as 80,000 barrels of water and upwards of 200,000 barrels. To give you a comparison, each barrel in this industry, in this function, is 42 gallons.
Wow.
So you're talking 4, 5, 6 million gallons of water that heretofore was thrown away after one use.
Wow. Wow, that's crazy. after one use. And that, that's been going on for a long time, hasn't it? So, you think
and
about
then
this.
The other item that probably many of the listeners are not familiar with this term. It is starting to emerge more and more and more because of the status of our municipalities and our county governments. But all of these governmental bodies are measuring a term called ton miles, which is what is the wear and tear on our infrastructure of 1 ton being moved 1 mile across our roadways, which gives them an indication of how much more taxes they're going to have to raise and how much more road work and repair and replacement. And simply in a 4-month period, to give you a reference point, using our system only for 4 months on a very low number of barrels per day, very low number, we would reduce 10 million ton miles of wear and tear on the infrastructure. And we would reduce about 500,000 pounds of CO2 emissions into the air because you're removing all those trucks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would imagine that there are people all over the country that are really taking a close look at this. Water rescue services, for everybody listening across the country, of course, is in Fort Worth. You've patented. We talked about that, how long it's taken. Do you have your product, I'll call it that, now in other parts of the country? Where are you? Because there's fracking going on all over the place.
Yes. The primary focus right now of our time, energy, and our systems is obviously Texas, West Texas, where there's a fairly notable and alarming water shortage. South Texas, which you have a mixture of that. We are in Pennsylvania. We have been in West Virginia before, and we have been operating in Colorado.
Yeah. I can only imagine, because you're talking about, as soon as you started telling me about the tonnage, but also the amount of water that was being thrown away, what's been the reaction to this? It has to be positive, I would think.
Oh, yes. The industry seems to move a little slower than one would expect or hope, but they're being very cautious. They've got enormous amounts of capital being committed to these wells, and it's obviously a very difficult and tricky situation. So they can't just take anybody who walks in the door and says, "Hey, I can clean your water and you can go back down the hole with it." It's real critical. So they have to go through a series of investigations and due diligence and tests, and that takes weeks and months, but it's worthwhile and it's prudent on their part. The larger the oil company, the more voices and more checkoffs are required. So it's not plug and play overnight, but it doesn't take years to get them involved. And now that you're seeing more and more alarming water shortages beginning to escalate to the surface to right in front of us, it's gone from us calling them to them calling us.
Yeah, there you go. We're speaking with Paul Schlossberg, of course, Water Rescue Services. Paul, the amount of manpower, on your end, what does it take to do the process?
Our system is mobile. We can move it around behind a pickup. It only really requires one person to operate it. We always have two out there for safety reasons. A larger installation might take 3 or 4, but it's a very small amount of manpower, and it's fairly automated, and it's highly mechanized and measured, and there's a lot of oversight.
Yeah, boy, that certainly makes sense. Once you talk about Pennsylvania, you talk about all over West Texas and water shortages and whatnot. Once somebody decides they're going to do it and they do it, is it immediate? Is it a eureka moment once they realize what they're doing water-wise and what they're saving?
Generally, yes, very much so. What they enjoy by using this is somewhere between as little as a 40% savings up to as high as 60% savings on their water.
Wow. Yeah,
now,
that's pretty
interestingly
big.
enough, there's two kinds of water going down there. The water they inject down there to frack the well, and then when you fracture these formations, you're releasing water. And this water's been down there for what? 1 million or 10 million years or whatever?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you don't know what's going to flow back. So you're always adjusting and treating, and the industry is beginning to do what you've just done. Wow. This really is a value add.
Oh, absolutely. You can tell from the financial sense, and also with what we're doing to our municipalities. We're talking about the trucks, the damage, all that kind of stuff, what you're saving all the way around. Interesting. Very, very interesting stuff. Paul, thanks for coming on the show. I enjoyed it. We'll have you on again.
Thank you for inviting me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.